going to be very spooky tonight as we join together to discuss the new movie Longlegs. But before we get into the show, please go to all of our social media pages. That is the Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk on 92.5 WLSD The Vault, 1220 AM, WLSDradio.com. And it's going to be a good show tonight. I do appreciate you all for coming along and possible spoiler alerts. So just to let you all know that this is a brand new film that is currently in movie theaters. And so there will be a few possible... I'm going to try to navigate around and not really get into many spoilers. But you never know if that might happen. So just bear in mind, keep in mind, that it possibly could happen during this episode of Real Talk. So, you all probably know that I have a deep place in my heart, a place in my heart for Nicolas Cage. Now, many of you all might know throughout the last, the last decade, especially this year, he's had a little bit of a resurgence. But in the mid to later part of the 2000s, pretty much from like 2013 until up until the last couple of years, he's pretty much been stuck in the direct to video DTV bin, and he's not been doing the best of projects that he's done in his life. But over the last couple of years, things have seemed to have changed for him. He has paid off all of his debts, and he's back to making what I would consider good movies. So you had the movie Pig, which came out, which was an underseen drama. That was a Nicolas Cage film. The unbearable likeness of being Nicolas Cage. I think that might have been another one. You had Renfield, that came out last year. And then now you have Longlegs, which came out last weekend. And Longlegs is about an FBI agent that uncovers a series of occult clues that she must solve to end this terrifying killing spree by someone named Longlegs. Now, the director is Osgood Perkins. And this name might not be a name that you might be familiar with, but you are familiar with part of his bloodline, which that being the son of Norman Bates himself, Anthony Perkins. This is Osgood Perkins. He's been the director of I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, Gretel and Hansel, Longlegs, and then he has next year another movie called The Monkey that will be released. Now, I got to be honest with you, I'd never really heard of Osgood Perkins. No, I take that back. I'd heard of his name, but I did not realize that he was, in fact, Anthony Perkins' son. And I didn't quite realize that he had a resume of at least 4 different films. Gretel and Hansel, I did hear of. It came out right around when COVID started taking off and all that stuff. And Longlegs is the next one, which is out right now. So this has a pretty good, solid cast. McKay Monroe as Lee Harker. She's the FBI agent assigned to Longlegs. You've got Nicolas Cage as Longlegs, an elusive serial killer being hunted down by the FBI. You've got Blair Underwood as Agent Carter. He is Lee's superior, and you've got Alicia Witt as Ruth Harker, Lee's religious mother. Now, if you're wondering about some of the other names, McKay Monroe, she was in It Follows, and we covered It Follows back in I think last fall in October, which was it was a fantastic film, and it's got a lot of rewatchable factor to it as well. Obviously, Nicolas Cage, Blair Underwood. He has graced us throughout the last 10 or 15 years in numerous projects. And Alicia Witt was a little bit of a surprise that she was in this, because a few weeks back, we covered an episode of Real Talk when we dove into Urban Legend. And she was the female heroine in Urban Legend. And here she is making a slightly different turn a good 25 years later in Longlegs. So let's get into a few facts of the movie. So, like I said earlier, Osgood Perkins is the son of actor and director Anthony Perkins, who played Norman Bates in Psycho 1, 2, and 3. Nicolas Cage and Oz Perkins made this movie as a tribute to both of their mothers. Now, in some interviews that I've read, both Nicolas Cage and Osgood Perkins had said that this movie and the script kind of made them think of their mother, which was a very odd sentiment and statement to make, especially if you've seen this film. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't want to get into it too much because it is still playing, and you may or may not want to go see it after this review. So this is another fact, many of Longlegs' encrypted messages contain misspellings and poor grammar after being decoded. This is an homage to the Zodiac Killer, who was known for his coded messages containing typos, which often made it more difficult to decode the messages. So if you know anything about some serial killers, and there's also some serial killer movies that go along with them, the Zodiac Killer was, there's a movie called Zodiac and the Zodiac Killer. But this Longlegs' approach, which is these encrypted messages that he leaves along the murders, but there's typos, errors, mistakes, which makes it difficult for some of the officers to be able to decode the actual message, which was the same way it happened with the Zodiac Killer. So test audiences praised Nicolas Cage's performance so much, and they said it was so off-putting that it could potentially scare off viewers. So if you've seen any of the promotional trailers or anything like that dealing with the movie Longlegs, Nicolas Cage is really not seen, first and foremost, actually throughout any of the promotional material, other than possibly a brief second or two. But it's just, it lingers long enough to put that little frightening image that wants to pull you out of the seat at home, in your car, at work, whatever, and go see this movie. And that's what they use Nicolas Cage for in the marketing of this film. So Oz Perkins, I call him Oz, when he was thinking of actors and actresses to play Longlegs, only two came to mind: Nicolas Cage and that of Brad Pitt. And obviously, for one reason or another, Nicolas Cage won out on the role. And I think a good choice was made. I think a very, very good choice was made. So the budget of this film was $10 million. And so far it has made $30 million plus. Like I said, it's still in the movie theater and it's actually doing fairly well. There had been some mixed responses for it by some horror movie audiences. But as always, they are some of the hardest audiences to please because there's so a vast array of things that people find scary or thrilling are nerve-wracking. So what I might find that, you all might not find that, and vice versa. So therefore, it's very difficult that you're going to find a movie that's going to, quote, scare everyone that's watching it. But Longlegs does try. It does try. I will give it that. So like I said, it had a budget of $10 million. And it's got a Rotten Tomatoes score, if you care about those type of critics and things like that, 86% positive. Now, when I initially wrote out the itinerary for the show, yes, I do follow an itinerary, it was at 100% positive. Now, the more reviews come in, the less skewed it can be, and you get a truer critical response. But 86%, that's great. That's fantastic, especially for a horror movie, because critics seem to judge these type movies a little bit more harshly than they do, maybe a drama that's looking for, to be Oscar bait, or a romantic comedy, or, things of this nature. But the horror movie usually gets the shaft when it comes to a lot of critical love. That doesn't happen often, but it has happened with Longlegs, which has a positive Rotten Tomatoes score of 86%, even a positive audience score of 64%, and a Internet Movie Database score, IMDb, at a positive 7.3. So let's get in a little bit of the plot without giving too much away, because I don't want to spoil Longlegs, just in case you all want to watch it. So Lee Harker, is a FBI agent. She exhibits certain premonitions or gifts. And her superior, played by, his name was Agent Carter, played by Blair Underwood, realizes early on that she has this type of gift. So therefore, she's set to put on this case involving a serial killer only known as Longlegs. There's been no blood. Excuse me. There's been no fingerprints. There's been nothing that would show that this killer, Longlegs, was even inside the houses where there were these murders taking place. How is Longlegs getting inside and outside? How is he murdering these people? And that's what Lee Harker is investigating. So that's the basic story of the movie. Now, like I said, you've got a small cast of characters, because this is, it's not exactly what I thought, but it's grown on me, and it's made me think about it the more distance between me and the film, and I've watched it twice this past week. So you've got a couple of good characters here. You've got Makai Monroe as Lee Harker, and she's very socially awkward. She seems to kind of be distant from everyone else. She doesn't have good flowing conversation with her superiors. And she's just a bit of an oddball character. And she has these little odd quirks and tics about her that make every kind of interaction that she has with someone else a little bit awkward and distant, and uneasiness, unnervingness that's surrounding this character. And that comes into play, and that can be, great for the story, but I could also see why it might, not be the best point of view as speaking narratively for the audience. She might not be a, quote, strong enough character because she is such a, quote, flawed character to begin with. But you don't really know 100% what is, quote, wrong with her. I use quotes like 3 times. That's embarrassing, but that I did. What can I say? So So yeah, you've got these characters. Then you've got Nicolas Cage. He's playing Longlegs. And I don't want to give away anything about Nicolas Cage's appearance, about his vocal tonality, his mannerisms, but they are a little unsettling. And it's not like a Nicolas Cage that you've seen before. So you can look these things up on your own. If you want to go on TikTok, you can look up the other people show on TikTok and then look up Nicolas Cage as Longlegs. Just follow if you do that, please. But I'm not going to give it away because I think you should go in not knowing anything about what he looks like. I think that's the best way to go about viewing the film. Go into it knowing as little amount as possible. And you're going to come out with a different experience than if you go in knowing some things. There's a couple of favorite and least favorite scenes that I don't know if I would say I have a least favorite scene. Whenever I'm watching a movie, there's a couple of different ways that I watch. I watch it in a way to kind of analyze, step back and look at it as a reviewer, as a fellow artist and director, someone that knows the craft of putting together a film, and Longlegs being a film that I, could make. I would have no problem putting together and making, producing and directing a movie like Longlegs. So therefore, I do understand 100%. I can't say 100% because I don't know Osgood Perkins. But I could fully say that, I could step in and take over and do things in this movie. And I think in a way that I could do them a little bit better than Osgood Perkins. Because I don't want to say some of my... I don't have a least favorite scene per se. But the movie is paced rather slow. And I don't mind a slow-paced movies because they build. They build. And Longlegs builds and builds and builds as well. But there's a couple of times when it prods along at a rather slower pace than it needs to be. And I would say honestly that every scene that Nicolas Cage is in, he steals the movie. I can't give those away, but he does steal every scene that he's in. Nicolas Cage does, as he often does. The score is very unsettling. It's retro in some instances, and it's kind of like this. You can listen for a moment. Well, we've just came to the end of that particular one. Let's see here. Let's listen to another little piece of score. Now, I don't listen to the score a lot by myself, especially at nighttime, because it does just kind of creep me out. And the movie has that kind of a creep factor to it as well. Let's listen to a little score. And it's unsettling and unnerving. And I would even say scary. It's scary. But it does have something underneath it that gets in. And it's jolting in a way. And it's kind of like this movie as well. Originality. I mean, there's been several serial killer movies that I would say they're top notch. You've got Silence of the Lambs, The House That Jack Built. You could even throw in Red Dragon if you wanted to. Hannibal. And then you could throw in Longlegs if you wanted to as well. It is original because it's original in the way it's told and the camera movement and the ratio of the screen size. It goes from like this 1970s look to a present day look, and not present because it takes place in the 90s, but like a 90s look, and it's great. It's a great score, and it fits in perfectly. And it's, I would say, half the reason the movie is scary is the score. Same thing with the poster. There are many different one sheets of the poster of Longlegs, and nothing is 100% total in focus. So when you're looking at this poster, you're not really 100% sure 100% what you're looking for, or looking at, I guess I should say. But yeah, it does get the point across of the film, what you want to go view, and it gives you a sense of, yeah, I can sense what this movie's about just by looking at the poster. Even if I did the movie Longlegs, I mean the name Longlegs just sounds kind of creepy and 70ish, from the 70s and early 80s. But the poster is equally as sinister as well. Now, would I recommend Longlegs to the listening and watching audience? And that answer is yes. I would definitely recommend Longlegs because it's not what you think it's going to be. It's not the movie that is the scariest movie of all time, which is what's been coming out a lot of the critic circles and things like that. That's why there's been a little bit of backlash against some of it, because it's set up to be one of the scariest movies that you've ever seen. And it's not that. Excuse me, it's not one of the scariest movies, but it's this movie that gets underneath, and it's very unsettling, and it stays with you. And it stays with you for days and upon days and upon days, and you never really lose sight of it, because it's always kind of just there. When you look away, you can see that quick glimpse of what Longlegs looks like. You don't want to be around or alone or in the dark when Longlegs makes his stay. But yeah, I would say definitely, if you're skeptical about it, I would go check out the matinee then. If you're skeptical, there's been a couple of people that I know that they said they didn't really care for it that much, but there's been so many people that have said, yeah, I really do like it. So I do think that it's worth a try. If you don't want to give it a full-fledged try, like I said, do the matinee route. That might save you a couple of bones. And yeah, I think it's going to be a fun time for you, and I think it's going to be something that stays with you for just a little while. So thank you for tuning in to Real Talk on 92.5 WLSD, The Vault. Next week, I think Jeremiah and Amber are going to be back in studio, and I'm going to play a song tonight. We had a guest that was on I'd say maybe about a year ago, Stephen Murray. He was on. He's going to be back on soon, but he has an album out. He's a local artist called Rituals. Stephen Murray, Rituals. So please check out his album on all the social medias. And we're going to play a track tonight as we leave. And this track is called Lonesome Pine. So you all have a good night. Oh, let's see. Let's try something else here. Let's go to a different player. Sometimes things don't work exactly the way that you wanted to the first time, but that is okay because we are going to try it again. Like I said, I was down getting a coffee at the 404 Creamery, and Stephen popped his head in and said, "Hey Ryan, I have something for you. You mind to give it a spin on your show?" And I don't mind to do that at all. So once again, this is Stephen Murray with Lonesome Pine from the new release Rituals on 92.5 WLSD. The Vault.
On the trail of the lonesome pine, I found a woman and I made her mine. Love can be sweeter than wine and still turn sour over time. She was a pretty thing, soft was her skin on my hands, and when she heard me sing, gone was the life she had planned. And we were everything to each other in that moment of time. We discovered words unspoken can't lie. When hearts are broken, they should never bind. On the trail of the lonesome pine, I found a woman and I made her mine. Love can be sweeter than wine and still turn sour over time. Then a child was born, spitting image in her mother's eyes. Who could ask for more? God delivered when He gifted a life. But I was young and poor, unprepared to take care of a child. I would tear at my hair, yet I'd smile. I was scared, I was born to be wild. On the trail of the lonesome pine, I found a woman and I made her mine. Love can be sweeter than wine and still turn sour over time. Now she would drink alone and drink over and over again. When would he come home? She grew colder and colder, and when she would think of him, is there a way he'd have stayed, could have been? How she hated he'd made love a sin. All this rage built a cage she lived in. Trail of the lonesome pine, I found a woman and I made her mine. Love can be sweeter than wine and still turn sour over